right, welcome back everybody for another edition of the Pierce the Canvas podcast. As always, this is Pierce. Today is actually the day after AEW Dynamite, October 29th, 2020. Here for a little bit of Halloween vibe, you know. I guess I might be kind of reviewing the wrong show if I'm going for a Halloween vibe here, but I'll take a second to say I actually did watch NXT and it was a fantastic show, but I'll leave it at that. We are primarily an AEW weekly stream, so we're going to stick to that. We're going to go ahead and review last night's October 28th, 2020 edition of AEW Dynamite. Pretty big show considering it's 2 weeks off, or rather 2 weeks away from their big November pay-per-view. So this week we had Cody versus Orange Cassidy for the TNT title in a lumberjack match. We had a tournament semifinals for the world title. We had 2 matches for that we'll get into. We had the new NWA Women's Champion Serena Deeb defend on the show tonight. And as well as will Inner Circle welcome MJF as a new member. So there's a lot to get into here. As far as the quality of the show goes, there's definitely some segments I was just like not as into. There was some ways that they progressed certain stories that I really wasn't into that we're gonna go ahead and cover. The show started off immediately with Wardlow and MJF being interviewed by Dasha. Dasha's basically asking Wardlow, if you win today's Contenders match and if you go on to win the championship, I guess she basically asked like, what's the first thing you're gonna do or whatever, something like that. But MJF doesn't give him a lot of time to talk at all, kind of just gets in there immediately and claims that Wardlow is his property, is MJF's property. So if Wardlow wins the championship, MJF is automatically the AEW champion because in storyline, Wardlow is signed personally by MJF, not by AEW apparently, so... Okay, so there's that, and I guess like Wardlow also kind of looked a little bit pissed off, so maybe just planting a little bit of seeds for what's to come in the future when this guy breaks out on his own, betrays MJF. Hopefully there will be a crowd for that, because, I could see Wardlow getting over as a big tough guy babyface. And also during the interview, Sammy Guevara came out saying that he's not gonna have it. He ain't letting MJF in Inner Circle. MJF says that Sammy may have, sold his match with Matt Hardy well, but couldn't even cut promos or something like that. Sammy Guevara gets mad. MJF asks what he's going to do about it, and Sammy says that he's thinking about what he's going to do about it. In a very tense stare down face to face. So there's definitely, with this whole Chris Jericho MJF thing, there's definitely going to be like a side rivalry between Sammy Guevara and MJF at some point. We're going to see that match, and that'll be a lot of fun. And so that led us to the very first match of the show, which is one of the 2 World Championship Contender matches for Full Gear. It's Wardlow versus Hangman Adam Page. Match starts and Page immediately goes after Wardlow before eating a big shot right at the beginning of the match. Adam Page pushed Wardlow into the steel post. Wardlow got pissed off and crashed Adam Page through the barricade, picked him up and just ran him through the barricade. Adam comes back in the ring at a 9 during the referee's count. Wardlow beats him back down as he gets back in the ring and lands a gut-wrench powerbomb for a near fall. Wardlow gets Page to the top rope for a chokeslam. That's reversed into a cross arm breaker on the rope, kind of like that Minoru Suzuki rope, hanging off the rope arm breaker kind of thing. Later on, Wardlow attempts a swanton and nobody home, and this guy is huge, right? Wardlow, he might not be the absolute tallest guy in the world. He might actually be around my height, about 6'2". But he's massive, 265, big dude, so for him to pull off a swanton like that is extremely impressive. Hangman showing off his athleticism with the ringside moonsault. A pretty risky move to be doing 2 weeks before potentially what could be your big match at Full Gear. Wardlow lands an F10, and Hangman happens to roll from the ring, preventing the cover. Lucky Hangman. Wardlow attempts a top rope F10 or like a choke slam. He was doing something. I think at one point you had him in a fireman's carry kind of position, and then you had him more in a choke slam position. Either way, Hangman Page reverses that into a fallaway slam across the ring, which is also super impressive. Like, is almost equally as impressive as Wardlow doing the Swanton. Just Hangman, this guy that's half his size, like whipping him across the ring. That was pretty cool. Page lands a buckshot lariat, goes for another, and lands a second one for the win. So Adam Page is officially in the finals at Full Gear, and we'll find out whether he'll face Penta El Zero Romero or Kenny Omega. So we see Jon Moxley in a vignette, says that he's been doing everything in his power to make AEW Championship the most important in the business. He says he's going to have to weaponize his championship against Kingston. Moxley says the title is for those with guts willing to do what it takes, not for those who quit, and Kingston will say I quit next Saturday. Moxley says that he crushes egos and warns Eddie to protect his neck. So Eddie Kingston is also having a match tonight, so he came out for the match and cut a promo beforehand basically saying like, how dare Moxley not be here in person, because Moxley wasn't at the show tonight. Again, that was just like a vignette. This Eddie Kingston promo took place in ring. He calls Moxley a coward and kicks the cameraman out of the ring. He kicks him out saying, listen, man, you don't deserve to be in this ring. This is my world. You know, I work to get into this ring. You get the hell out of here. You ain't trained to be here, man. I loved that. So the cameraman gets out of the ring. So Kingston talks a bit about his match for tonight, says he's facing the guy who stole his thunder at the Casino Battle Royal. Calls him a joker and tells Moxley better be watching from home. So Eddie Kingston's out there, also with the Butcher Blade and Bunny, I think, were there as well. So the match was cool. Like, you know, it's kind of just small showing of what Matt Sydal is capable of in a one-on-one match on Dynamite. I think this is his first like Dynamite match, I'm pretty sure. So obviously it's a clash of styles here. Kingston is fighting with his hard brawl style, mixing with Sydal's quick high-flying style. Matt landed a huge knee and kick to the head for a near fall at one point in the match. Sydal gets Kingston to the top rope, lands a Hurricane Rana and a Meteora for a near fall. Sydal goes for a bunch of roll-ups, near falls, until Kingston gets a kitchen sink, knee, and spinning fist, and that leads him to get his headlock finisher that he did to Moxley a couple weeks ago. And he ain't letting go. You know, the match ends. He's not letting go. He's hanging on to that hold. The Bunny gets into the ring with a microphone, puts the mic to Kingston's face, and Eddie Kingston is saying, Moxley, say I quit, and puts the mic to Matt Sydal, basically pretending that Matt Sydal is Moxley, or maybe in his mind he was thinking he really is Moxley, thinking about what he's going to do to him. So he says, say I quit, Moxley, and finally Matt Sydal says, I quit. And then he lets go of the hold, and a little bit of like, I'm not going to say burial, but this isn't doing Matt Sydal any favors. I think I read somewhere that, like, either this was supposed to be a completely different match, or Eddie Kingston was supposed to face somebody else, or maybe it was Matt Sydal was supposed to face somebody else. I don't remember. I think this might have been kind of a like last-minute scrap of some sort. I believe is possible. So Excalibur is interviewing the Young Bucks and FTR. So Excalibur is asking about how Matt's doing. You know, he had his ankle kind of injured last week when FTR went after him. He says he's good and it ain't going to stop him from being in this match that has been building for years. FTR is asked why they put that match in jeopardy. Like, why would you do that, you know, just a few weeks away from the match? FTR says that the match is a dream match. You know what? It might be for everybody else, but it's not for us. We're just after being the best in the world, so we don't really care, I guess, essentially is what they're saying. Excalibur says what happened to Matt had to be payback, you know, for kind of the stuff that they've been doing, going around super kicking all these people. Young Buck says that they've been suffering. They can't find their edge anymore. I guess they're basically just saying that they want to be the Young Bucks of old, but they, I don't know, I guess they don't feel like it or something. Matt says that the pricks FTR have brought Young Bucks of old back, and they better be ready. Excalibur's about to ask another question to the Young Bucks. The FTR interjects and says, "Listen, we're the champions here. Like, why are you asking the number one contenders all the questions? If you're just going to be talking to them, we have no reason to be here." And they said, "You know what? We're out." So FTR just split from the interview. And I should mention as well that it was a split picture. So on one side you had Excalibur and the Young Bucks in one screen, and then in the other screen you had FTR. So it's not like they were physically together; they were in different places. And when they leave, Excalibur just carries on with the interview. Young Bucks say that they've always bet on themselves, and they went as far as saying that if they don't win at Full Gear, they'll never challenge for the championship again. So they added that stipulation to the match, which is completely unnecessary because this is a kind of program that really sells itself. Just Young Bucks versus FTR, that's all you need. That is the stipulation. Like, you don't have to add all these other things. They're not going to add any value to the match. They're not going to bring anybody into the match more excited or more on the edge of their seat. In fact, in a certain way, my first impression is that they gave away the finish of the match. I don't think Young Bucks are losing now. Because, there's the Cody thing, right? Like, Cody added the same stipulation to his championship match last year at Full Gear against Chris Jericho. And he lost that match. So just like, fuck it, like, wrestling logically, I just don't think the Young Bucks are losing now. So I think it was stupid to do this. Town Hall meeting, hosted by Tony Schiavone and Dasha Gonzalez. This town hall is held to determine if MJF shall join the Inner Circle. We had a notable absence of Jake Hager as he's training for his Bellator fight coming up in a couple days. The crowd is going pretty crazy singing Judas, of course, as Jericho's entering in. And so basically it's a panel kind of setup, so they have random people come up and ask questions just to kind of see what MJF, like whether he should actually be in Inner Circle. So first person asking questions, Luchasaurus from 65 million BC. He has the first question, and he says that, I was a representative of dinosaurs and a medieval historian. He asks like, "Oh, how can you keep Inner Circle's earnings as high as possible?" I don't see how that relates to dinosaurs and medieval historian. I think he also mentioned he has a master's degree or something. So MJF happens to already have a graph showing post MJF Inner Circle earnings and pre MJF Inner Circle earnings. So you had the Inner Circle earnings before MJF is all over the place. Post MJF, it's just skyrocket. Next, it's Britt Baker DMD with Reba, and Britt Baker has a question, but Reba is kind of just like complimenting Chris Jericho, just like, "Oh my god, you have a great smile. You're so handsome when you smile." That was kind of funny, and then Britt Baker's like, "Stop it, you're embarrassing us." And then she's like, as much as I love MJF, I have to admit, you don't have to be a dentist to see that you have a bad track record with friends. So what makes us think that you're not just going to turn your back on these guys like you did Cody? And Jericho says he's not a dipshit like Cody, and he basically threatens MJF, says, "We're going to knock your teeth down your throat if you do anything against us." So it's just stupid to even think about betraying us. MJF reassures that he's not going to betray them. He's in this. We're all in this business for the money and the championships, and he says that that's exactly what he's going to bring if he joins Inner Circle. So next we have Peter Avalon, which I don't know if you know, but he and Brandon Cutler had their match on Dark, on AEW Dark, and Brandon Cutler won for his very first victory in his entire AEW career. He was like, I think, 0-25-2 or something. Like, he had like 2 or 3 draws. So yeah, that was actually a fun match. If you haven't seen it, I kind of recommend checking it out if you're into that kind of silly storyline. But anyway, Peter Avalon just straight up asks if he could join Inner Circle in this segment. Jericho and Inner Circle laugh him off. So next up we have Eric B, who has a question. Of course, you knew who that is, Eric Bischoff. Basically, he he asks MJF, "What can you do for Inner Circle?" You know, he uses the whole "Don't ask not what your country could do for you. What can you do for your country?" MJF, "What can you do for Inner Circle?" MJF gives a one-word answer: friendship. Eric Bischoff says that most would consider MJF the complete package. He might just be. What can Inner Circle do for you? MJF says that he's not almost a total package. He is. He's willing to admit that there is a dent in his armor, though. He's not the best team player. But when he joins Inner Circle, he will learn to be. Being in this faction, he'll learn to grow and become more of a team player. So Eric's final question says that he's worked with Jericho for many years. He knows that he's a prima donna. Jericho gets offended and starts like yelling at Bischoff, says, "I never even liked you, man." And then Tony Schiavone, like the mean teacher at school, just yells, "Jericho, shut up!" It was great, man. It was so funny. Jericho, and then Eric continues that MJF is also a prima donna, asks, "What if this just ends up with you and Jericho trying to kill each other?" MJF says that he's been getting booed and arrows thrown at him since he came out, I guess, for this segment. Jericho asks the same question: "How do we know that you won't backstab us?" MJF checks every box according to himself. He has presence, great television, friendship. Last week, MJF gave Jericho the best segment in his career. So MJF has a question himself. He asks Jericho, what hasn't he done to earn his spot? And then Jericho, after a few seconds of silence, says, "You haven't beaten me." And so it's official. They set it up at Full Gear November 7th. It will be MJF versus Chris Jericho one-on-one. And if MJF wins, he'll join Inner Circle. MJF says that he's going to do whatever it takes to win. And he reassures that Jericho understands whatever it takes. And Jericho expects nothing less. MJF restates his point, and Ortiz interjects at this point, says that he don't want MJF into the circle. He and Sammy are like equally, they're just not interested in having MJF around. And he went out of his way to mention Santana doesn't really care. He's like, he's kind of indifferent. So Ortiz challenged MJF to a tag team match next week. Ortiz and Sammy versus MJF and Wardlow. What I wrote in my notes is, I guess MJF has to win that to get his match with Jericho. That's kind of the vibe I got, but I don't think so. I think that match is just going to be happening just to build toward the pay-per-view. So next we see Team Taz in the quick segment. Taz is basically putting over Will Hobbs. We are seeing the recap of kind of what's been happening between Team Taz and Will Hobbs. You know, when Team Taz came out to attack Darby, and then Will Hobbs came out to protect Darby, and, you know, Taz gave him the offer to join Team Taz. So this little segment was just Taz saying that time is about to be up for you, man. You got to decide whether you're going to join us or not. And that leads us to the TNT Championship Lumberjack match between Orange Cassidy and Cody Rhodes. Again, this is coming off the draw from a couple of weeks ago. Orange Cassidy was just seconds away from winning the championship. In fact, he pretty much had the match in the bag, but the time limit went against him, and he couldn't get the job done on time. So his match begins, and Cassidy and Cody are starting full speed, man. Like, Cassidy was kind of teasing his Orange Cassidy, like, slowness and all that, but then he would just break out. So he wasn't doing his usual, like, slow, methodical beginning of a match. You know, he's, like, pretending to put his hands in his pockets, and, like, right as his hands are about to go in his pockets, he goes and hits the ropes and, like, hits a move or whatever. Cody into the match is doing, like, you know, landing his suplexes and doing his push-ups to show off that Orange Cassidy, you can't touch this guy. Orange falls out of the ring, and best friends prevent the other Lumberjacks from touching him and help him back into the ring. Cody gets spilled out, and this time best friends catch him as well, but they, whoops, we dropped him. He just fell on the floor. Cassidy lands a drop kick. Trent lands a sucker punch to Cody as he was leaning on the apron, and the ref was distracted, I think. Orange Cassidy connects a swinging DDT for a near fall. Orange tries to splash, but Cody's got knees. Cody and Orange both fall to ringside. Best friends push Cody into the ring. Nightmare Family throw Cassidy in. And during the picture-in-picture break, both guys fall out of the ring around the Dark Order, and the Dark Order just starts like going after Cody, starts like stomping him out. Team Hybrid 2 looks like they're beating up Orange Cassidy, and this just breaks out into like a giant fight against like everybody. Like all the lumberjacks are all fighting in like one pile of lumberjacks. Cody positions Cassidy for a superplex, but decides to change the position to a superplex to the ring side, and so he suplexes Orange Cassidy off the top rope outside of the ring onto the lumberjacks. Cody lands a Cody cutter for a near fall. Cassidy gets his Slumdog Millionaire, flying DDT, and beach break for a near fall. Dark Order get in the ring, they distract the referee, Silver hits Cassidy, Arn got in a cheap shot against Cassidy. Cody lands his Crossroads for the win. All the lumberjacks immediately start fighting each other. The last ones that we see in the ring are Billy and Austin Gunn, and they're landing their finishers. And we see Darby Allin watching from the rafters, because of course he's going to have to face whoever wins this match. The winner, of course, was Cody, so we will see Darby Allin versus Cody Rhodes at Full Gear. Next up, we see Alex Marvez with Best Friends, as well as Kip and... I guess he was just with Best Friends, and Kip and Miro ended up coming out, Kip Sabian and Miro. Kip explains the arcade system. You know, we were mad because it was a gift. Like, that's why we got all pissed off the other week, whenever that was. They forgive Best Friends. Penelope offers a bucket of candy or something like that, and she basically asks, trick or treat, and then they just lay waste to Best Friends, start beating the crap out of them. Miro will never forgive Best Friends. And then Kip like pulls out a present and like unwraps it, and I guess it's like a new arcade system, so he's all happy. And so next we have our Serena Deeb NWA Women's Championship match. We have a little video package. Serena is telling us she became NWA Women's Champion. Serena says this is legacy, all the respect for those who came before her, and says that she's gonna show us why we should also respect her as the champion. So she's having a match against Layla Hirsch. This is her first match on AEW Dynamite. I think her second match in AEW off of a loss against Hikaru Shida on Dark from, I guess you could say, the night before. And there's a lot of technical display. I think Layla Hirsch has an amateur wrestling background, so there's a lot of like amateur wrestling kind of stuff going. Got like a stiff collar and elbow, headlocks, arm drags. Hirsch lands a big clothesline, an elbow strike, and double knees, and a drop kick in the corner. Serena does a hanging net breaker on the rope. And Hirsch is a type of build where she's like kind of short, but her legs are like super like thick, so she's kicking the crap out of Serena Deeb as Serena's trying to go for offense. Hirsch begins going after the arm, shoving her arm first into the corner. Layla gets a release German suplex, goes to the top, attempts a moonsault, but nobody home. Serena Deeb does a swinging neckbreaker and a reverse neckbreaker into a kind of modified Boston Crab for the win. So now we have like a 2-second segment building up the women's match for Full Gear. So it's just Alex Marvez with Hikaru Shida, and he says that Nyla Rose won't wrestle you unless you personally challenge her, unless you personally call her out. So Hikaru Shida just gets like a couple words in and calls out Nyla Rose, and yeah, it's official. The match will take place at Full Gear. And what a lot of people are talking about, I just want to address a little bit here, is, and also some real confusion that I have. Some real confusion. So there is a little bit of controversy, completely understandable, about like the AEW Women's Championship. Like, why is it hardly ever featured? Why is the NWA Women's Championship so like feel so much more special? So for one, of course, they could have put in an AEW Women's Championship match or something like that tonight, but it had occurred to me that I think the Serena Deeb match happened because of Abaddon. Because Abaddon was supposed to have a match this week. Unfortunately, she got pretty badly hurt, so she I think she still like had the match, but they didn't bother airing it because she got injured. Um, but again, this leads to a lot of confusion for me because I thought that this episode was taped like last Thursday. That's what I read everywhere, is that the episode was taped. And of course it had to have been because again, Abaddon had her match and got injured, and that happened like like around last Thursday. And then the Serena Deeb match was announced as a result of that. So if everything was taped last week, Serena Deeb won her championship the night before Dynamite, but the show was already taped by them, wasn't it? So how did they get the Serena Deeb match in there? But anyway, what a lot of the controversy is like, why do they keep showcasing the NWA Women's Championship? I guess they did it because they had to replace the Abaddon match. That's the main reason. Again, you could argue, well, why didn't they just do like an AEW? Right, yeah, they honestly could have just put their own title on the line. But that's something I'm going to try to get some information about that. Because again, the Serena Deeb match, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, like, if it was live or what, but it did happen, yes, like, last night during AEW, because she won the championship the night before, but the episode was already taped by then. So it's very, very confusing. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Yeah, we'll see. So next we have Shawn Spears having a match on AEW Dynamite for whatever reason, facing VSK. Don't know who that is. I also missed his like win-loss record. I'm not sure if he's been on like Dark or what. Anyway, they just go for like a 5-second match. Shawn Spears gets in the ring. He does his C4 Death Valley Driver finish for the win. I guess the reason why this happened is because they're setting up, or at least continuing the feud between him and Scorpio Sky. So a bull gets into the there's a bull in the crowd, like somebody dressed as a bull, kind of heckling Spears. Spears gets pissed off, throws a bull into the ring. Spears is going for like a weapon or something. He like goes up to Tully for something. But the bull happens to be Scorpio Sky, and he lands his TKO to Spears. I don't think anything was like officially announced after the match as far as when they're gonna wrestle. It might have been announced for next week. I don't quite remember. So yeah, we got a little bit of a showcase for what we'll see next week. We got Jericho on commentary, MJF and Wardlow vs Ortiz, Sam Guevara. Cody and the Gun Club will face Silver, Ten, and Colt Cabana of Dark Order. Gun Club being Austin and Billy Gunn. And then we have a Moxley and Kingston face-to-face, as well as probably a couple other things. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a great show next week, because of course it is the go-home show for their pay-per-view. I feel like the build-up to this pay-per-view hasn't been the greatest, but we'll see how the go-home show is. And then this leads us to our main event, Kenny Omega versus Penta El Zero Miedo. This again is a semifinal for the AEW World Championship Tournament Finals, which will take place at Full Gear. And just to clarify as well, the whoever wins on Full Gear between the two number one contenders, they get to challenge for the championship anytime they want. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the same night of Full Gear or anything like that. It could be the next week on Dynamite, it could be 6 months from now or whatever. So Justin Roberts is, of course, putting over Kenny Omega again for his entrance, just listing a whole bunch of accolades, a whole bunch of like media outlet quotes about how awesome he is. He has the same women with the brooms come out, and this time they're wearing Lucha Bros masks. Kenny Omega at the beginning of the match reveals that under his shirt he has the AAA World Mega World Championship. And I'm probably one of the few people out there that didn't forget that he has this. It's actually kind of funny. It occurred to me maybe like a week ago that he still has his championship. And I looked it up. I was like, does he still have it? And like, is he defending it? And yeah, apparently so. So it's like the same situation as Jon Moxley with the IWGP United States Championship. They're just not really able to defend it, Just the state of the world is not permitting. But yeah, I loved that touch, Kenny and Penta are about to start fighting. Kenny's like, wait a sec, and he has a shirt on, and he lifts his shirt, and there's the championship. Anyway, Kenny initiates a chop fest. They start chopping the shit out of each other until Kenny takes him down. After he slapped Penta with his glove, when Penta throws his glove, Kenny caught it and slapped him in the face with it, and then took him down. Penta lands a tope at ringside, after which he seems to be selling a leg injury. Kenny lands his own eventually after. Penta lands a crossbody to the floor on Omega. Penta gets a diving stomp for a near fall. Kenny landed a big knee and a power bomb and knee strike for a near fall. Lands his V trigger. Penta escapes a one-winged angel attempt. Kenny lands a kick to the back of his head before landing another V trigger. And shortly afterward, Penta El Cerro Miedo lands a destroyer from the top onto the ramp outside. And then he gets Kenny into the ring and package pile drives him for a near fall. That was a lot to lead to a near fall, man. That was a lot to lead to a near fall. Kenny and Penta exchanging strikes. Penta lands an enziguri. Kenny gets a V-trigger. Penta escapes another one-winged angel attempt. Penta snaps Omega's arm, goes for his finisher. Kenny escapes, starts landing chops, and runs into kick to the jaw. Penta attempts a springboard, but kind of flies into a V-trigger. Kenny finally lands his one-winged angel finisher for the win. So it will be, it's official, the former partners, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, will face off at Full Gear. Number 1 contenders match for the World Championship. They get to challenge for the title whenever they like, whoever wins the match. So I'm super excited. I hope they don't add any stupid stipulations to this match or anything. I just kind of want what I see on my notes here. I want, what does it say? It says Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page. That's all I want. Just like all I wanted was Young Bucks versus FTR. And then they have to add this stupid stipulation. The more I think about it, the more I hate it. Of if we lose, we can't contend for the championship. I don't like it, man. I don't like it at all. I don't like the idea. Okay, it literally booked them into a trap for me. Because I don't like the idea of them winning now. Because now I feel like they're just going to win. And if they win, it's like, well, of course they fucking won. And if they lose, it's like, okay, well, now they can never contend for the championship again. So it's, I don't know, they booked themselves into a bad corner, in my opinion. This is not good. Especially for this match, that for so many wrestling fans is a dream match and something that everybody's looking forward to. So I'm not impressed with that. But everything else on the show pretty much was great. Pretty good. The women's match was awesome. I thought it was, despite the fact that it wasn't really an AEW match per se. I still thought it was awesome. I would say it added a bit of quality to the show. It wasn't nearly as good as Rhea Ripley versus Miss Gonzalez on NXT, whatever her first name is. I don't do NXT streams anyway. But yeah, I did watch the Halloween Havoc show and really liked it. It was better than this show, I'll actually say. I only watched 2/3 of it. I still have a bit more to watch. It was definitely more exciting than this show. The Jericho MJF town hall meeting was was kind of silly, but I think it did what it had to 2 weeks before their match, and I'll really be looking forward to that as well. I'm sure that MJF versus Chris Jericho is going to be full of awesome storytelling and great wrestling, so there's a lot to look forward to in the coming 10 days or so, 10 or 12 days until Full Gear. And of course, we'll be back next week again. I'll try my very best to be on time for Wednesday night. Thank you, as always, for joining me here, Pierce the Canvas Podcast. Again, I'm Pierce. We'll be signing out for today. Stay healthy and safe, and enjoy the rest of your week. Take care, everybody.